Welcome back to Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence, the #1 show helping you reach millions. Today, we are talking to one of my favorite people I met on a cruise ship. She's dominatrix, but not just any dominatrix. She helps you get your sales in order. She specifically helps people growing downlines for network marketing, but she's just an all-around amazing person. I'm super excited. I know this is going to be a fun show. This is going to be a little bit different. Welcome to Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence. Jennie, we met. We met on a cabana. You were wearing a bathing suit that looked like it belonged in a dungeon. We had a great sales conversation. You told me about how you had grown your business, how you had helped people in the MLM space, but really how you just helped women empower themselves. It was a super cool conversation. Where did this whole journey start for you? Because I love your story. Where did it start for you?
Oh, so it started in a classroom. I was a middle school science teacher for a number of years and then took some time off to have my first baby. And that was, oh my gosh, at this point now, almost 15 years ago. And I took some time off. I was gone for about 2 years. And when I decided to try and go back into the classroom, I was like, okay, time to go back to teaching. It was the middle of that really big bad recession that happened between 2008 and 2012. So schools did not have a lot of money. And I kept getting told no over and over and over again. I think I heard like 18 or 20 no's that year. And so I thought, okay, fine, universe. If not teaching, what am I supposed to do next? And literally 2 days later, an invitation to a direct sales jewelry event showed up in my mailbox, back when you got like real mail with real invitations. And I went to that event and walked out with a business. And the rest is history. So, I mean, I don't know how long you want me to go on my story because I could go for days, but I mean, that's where it all started, was in a classroom.
So, okay. I mean, you started off as a teacher,
Hmm.
low paying, mid paying job. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
It's not the highest paying job in the world. You
No.
were open to doing something else. You land in an MLM meeting. I mean, some of the listeners here, I'm sure as soon as I said MLM, wanted to tune out. Why did you join? Two, what did you like? Were you successful with it out of the gate? Because you're not building a downline right now. You're actually teaching people leadership, and you're teaching people about how to build their team, and you're teaching people about how to do sales, which for a lot of people is really scary. How did you go from, I'm going to sign up for this MLM? Most people sign up, they never do a sale in their life, right? They sit there and
Right.
they're like, I'll try to hold a meeting. This sucks. Let's drink wine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So what got me to decide to do it was, I basically didn't see any reason not to give it a try, because at that point in time, because it was the middle of that giant recession that happened back then, it was only $5 to start your business. Like, that was the business investment. Because your first party for this particular company, your first party would then pay for the kit. So I was like, for $5 I can start a business. This is a no-brainer. Why is not every woman in this room walking to the front, grabbing a contract and signing the dotted line? This is stupid. I can't believe this. And did I succeed from the get-go? Sort of. Within 3 months of joining, and this was my first sales position. I had never had to sell anything before. My high school first job was McDonald's. You don't have to sell anything there. People walk in knowing exactly what they want. So I never had to sell. I just showed up, took people's money, and gave them their food, right? But I did very well in sales. And within my first 3 months, I think first 90 days, I was number 2 in sales in my organization. So successful in the sales part. The recruiting part, not so much. It took me a while to figure that piece out. But once I did, absolutely flew to the top. My organization ended up hitting number 1 in the world for group recruiting at one of our conferences, and we hit number 3 in the world for group sales. So both of those are, that's a pretty big deal. And for me, what mattered about that was that I was able to teach people how to build their team.
So,
That's what that was about.
okay, so that's awesome. First off, you use the word teach. You were a teacher.
Yes.
You had an A class skill set teaching,
Yeah.
but you were teaching science, which is like, if we're honest, probably a D opportunity when it comes to income.
Yes.
You
Agreed.
found an A class opportunity where your skill set fit. But I want to kind of unpack that. First off, congratulations. That's an awesome, awesome success. I'm sure a lot of people listening they have head trash, or they have things in their head that are like, that would never happen for me. I've never heard of anyone having that kind of success. That's a 1 in a million. So first off, I want to point out, you said, when I rushed forward and signed on the dotted line, I was like, why aren't all these women doing it? You're a glass half full kind of person, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Super positive. Super, like, not Pollyanna, but yeah. I'm a very positive person, and I went into it going, this this can only go right? Because if I decide I don't want to do this, because I did ask the question, what happens if I don't do well at this? And they said, you walk away with all the jewelry in the kit, you walk away with all the money that you made, you walk away with everything. You don't have to keep going if you don't want to. And I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. I'm gonna potentially walk away with somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 worth of jewelry that I didn't have to pay for. Okay.
For five
Seriously.
bucks.
For $5. I started a business for $5. Yeah. Like,
Okay, perfect. So then let's like take this within 90 days. If I can read my own writing, within 90 days, you had one of the top, you were the top salesperson. You didn't have the top downline, but you were second.
right. I was second in my organization, and the only person who was selling more than I was at that point in time was the gal who brought me into the business. My leader,
Okay.
my superior, my mentor, whatever you want to call. Everybody has a different line, a different word for it. My upline is the only person who was beating me in sales.
Okay, so sales was the
Mhm.
key here. You were out doing sales. You had never done sales before. We remember your McDonald's story. How were you successful? Did you follow training that they gave you? Did you go read sales books? Did you role play?
All of the above. I participated in the training that was offered by my upline every time she offered it. As long as I could get there, as long as I could get childcare for my kids, which at the time was my husband. I went to those trainings because I knew that I didn't know everything, and how was I going to get good at this business if I didn't go learn the things that this gal who had been in the industry at that point in time for, I think, 12 years, and had come over from another company where she had been the number one salesperson in that entire company. I was like, no brainer. Follow what she said. Do what she says. Don't fight it. Don't push the process. Don't try and change it. Do what Mary Grace says to do. And so that's what I did. And then I did a little bit of innovating from time to time when I was like, hey, I really think it'd be fun to try this. And I would try it. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But it gave me, now this is the science part, it gave me data going, okay, here's what works. Here's what doesn't work. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't work. And I was able to slowly tweak my own sales process through that. But yeah, I went through a crap ton of training. And yes, I was also then, shortly after I started my business, joined BNI, a networking organization. They also have a lot of training. So I went to their training and, took everything that they taught me there and, removed BNI, insert Jennie's business name. If I do everything that'll make me successful in BNI in my business, that'll make me more successful in my business. So I did that. And then, of course, I was reading books, and at the time I didn't know podcasts existed because this was 2010, 2011. Yes, podcasts existed, but I didn't know what they were. I didn't there was no app for them at the time, I don't think. You had to go find them on the interwebs and look for them. And
Yeah,
so yeah, I didn't
much
know that
different.
those existed, but had I would have been listening to those too. So I was watching TED Talks and all kinds of fun, like anything I could. I was a sponge to absorb as much information and say, how can I use this to make me better, to make my business better?
Okay, so I have two questions. The first one, I was trying to figure out what order to put them in, but what would you say made you successful? Because I think there are a lot of people, thousands of people join every month. None of them have the success that you had. Very few, right? 1 out of 1,000,
Right.
1 out of 2,000. What made you different? Because they go to trainings, people show up to the trainings, people do the things, but now you have helped hundreds, if not thousands of people build their downline. What made you different? Like looking back at it, what made you different?
Great question. And that is something actually, like, I have a webinar on that I teach people. This is what made me successful. It's a 4-pillar thing. I treated my business like a business. I didn't tell people that this is my hobby, this is my side gig, this is my what. No, this is a business. I don't do this for fun. I do this to contribute to my family financially. And it also just happens to be fun. So I treat it like a business. The second thing was I was disciplined. Well, as disciplined as somebody who is neurospicy can be, but I was disciplined. I set up systems and processes that kept me accountable and doing the things I needed to do in order to be successful. And then I followed. I was disciplined in following those systems, almost sometimes to a fault, but disciplined enough. The third part was I made sure that I was doing sales and sponsoring. I was always focused on, how do I get the sale? How do I sponsor? Who's the next person to my team? Who's the next person that I'm helping do the same thing I'm doing? And then that went into the mentorship. I was getting mentors, not just in my industry, but also getting mentors from outside of my industry. So other business professionals because of my connections through BNI. But I was also then mentoring other people. I was turning around and saying, hey, let me help you. So I was receiving mentoring, giving mentoring to make sure that I was always in reciprocity for that energy. And you'll notice business, discipline, sales, mentoring, BDSM.
I
wish y'all could see his face right now.
Was that where the sales dom came from, or was it just because you were like,
yeah,
okay,
that's where the sales dom came from was me realizing that those are the 4 things that I did.
Okay.
And so
I just use the word discipline a lot. I mean,
yeah.
Put the smack down.
Yeah. Well, so, I don't have it with me here at my desk, but I do have a writing crop that I use as a prop here on a regular basis.
Please tell me that you use it on your students. Occasionally or never.
Not my coaching clients. They're too far away.
Okay.
Plus they didn't consent.
You have a safety word too, right? In your business?
I do. I have a safe word on my podcast and it's meatloaf because I would do anything for business, but I won't do that.
That's perfect. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to go back. I love these. So what I heard you say a couple times in there, the very first thing was I treat my business like a business. But what I heard when you say that, if I read between the lines, is you talk to yourself differently. You didn't say, I'm going to go out and try this. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll go find another teaching job. Or I might be okay at this. You said, this is a business. I need the money to help support my family, and it can be fun. I think unfortunately right now, especially like in the last 5 years, there's been this growing thing of well, if it's not fun, you don't have to do it. And if it's not fun, it's not your real calling. And I track some of the people in the woo space for sure. And I think we can make anything fun. We choose, we hold the control over whether we see something as fun or not. I went and helped my girlfriend a couple of weeks ago set up an entire meeting space and blah, blah, blah. And one of my friends was like, dude, how did you do that for her? That's a whole bunch of work. You just held a 3-day event. I was sick. And I was like, I just made it fun. In my head, I was like, how can I make this fun and enjoy it? And I tend to do that with a lot of things. I'm not perfect. This show isn't about me, though. It's about you. I want to know, what did you tell yourself? Because I'm sure there were moments. I know this is 15 years ago, so we might have to jump in the time machine. But what did you tell yourself to keep a positive attitude? Because this is a new thing and stepping out of our comfort zones is hard. What did you tell yourself to make it fun and to keep yourself motivated and be not in a state of need? This has to work or my life is going to suck. But this is my business. I'm treating it like business. I'm going to go make money. I'm going to go sell things and I'm going to be successful.
Yeah, I wish I could say it was just one thing, but I would say the biggest overarching commitment I made to myself was I was not allowed to make any decisions about the business, like for example, to leave the business on a bad day. I could not on a bad day go, that's it, I quit. That was the
What was your
biggest number one commitment. So it was I could only decide to leave the business if I was on top because
so
there was
what
something better.
so on a bad day, what was your answer instead? What was, if I can't quit, then I have to do X. What's your
Right.
answer?
It,
Go for a
it
walk. I have
Yeah, no, exactly. It was, sometimes it was self-care. Sometimes it was reframe. Sometimes it was call a friend and who was in the industry that I could bitch and moan with, who wasn't going to try and talk me out of it. Because I had a support circle of people who loved the business, who loved the industry, and I knew would never try and say, well, why don't you just give up? Why don't you just go back to teaching? Why don't you just do this? So I knew they'd support me in that decision, knowing that I wasn't allowed to make a decision, a negative decision on a bad day. Um, I think what also kept me going and made me successful in the things that I told myself was that I was doing this also to help people. A lot of people think, oh, jewelry, how does that help people? Well, the research I did around the benefits of women who wear jewelry, right, was literally psychologists who are working with depressed patients, depressed women, recommend that to help them get out of the depression is that every day they get up and put on lipstick and put on jewelry. Put on
love
something
it.
sparkly that makes you happy. And so I knew that by going out, if this is what they recommend for depressed patients, imagine what kind of joy it could bring to women who weren't depressed. So I knew I was out there spreading joy. Every time you walked past a window or a mirror and saw your reflection, you were going to see this wonderful sparkly thing that made you so freaking happy that you put money on the table to purchase it. And so I knew I was helping people in that way. And then, of course, I was also helping my team members build their own businesses. So I knew if I quit, I was letting all of those people down in addition to letting down my family. And so I
Right.
think it was those mindsets and those things that I was telling myself that really helped keep me going. And I think those are true for solopreneurs, whether they're in direct sales, MLM, network marketing, or not, because we all have a tribe that we serve, our clients that we serve, and and our potential clients are waiting for us. And if we go out of business, we've now let all those people down because they don't have us to serve them anymore. I don't know what else to say to
No, that's it.
that.
Those are all of that is great. And I think that is honestly, like, listening to you, seeing your body language and thinking about yourself. Like, when I started my business, I did a little bit differently, but I was like, I have to be successful at this. I am not going back to what I did before. I know that I can help people. I know that I can figure this out. And that's what kept me going on hard days versus like, this might work. If you approach it like that, like, of course it's easy to tell yourself it's okay to quit. So
Right.
moving through your four things, I want to talk about system and process. A lot of people get bogged down in the beginning, right? They're starting to do something, whatever business it is. There's all this tech hurdles you got to overcome. There are all these internal thought processes. What is one system or process that you think every entrepreneur needs, regardless of their business? If we met in a bar
Hmm.
or in a cabana and you were wearing a bathing suit, and I was
Yeah.
too, and I
Yeah.
was like, what's one system or process I need in my business? What would it be?
I The one that has made the most difference for me has been the relationship management system that I use. Because and I don't call it a CRM because it's not just for customers. I use this particular relationship management process and resource, like with my own family, because I don't know about you guys, but I can get super hyper focused in my business and forget to reach out to my mom. I can get super hyper focused in my business and forget to reach out to my best friend who I've known for literally 30 years. So I put them in there as a reminder to be like, hey, Jennie, reach
Ding,
out to
ding.
your mother, and don't just ask her. Because what prompted all of this was looking at my text messages to my mom. And I realized every time I instigated or initiated a conversation with her, it was always me asking her, hey, can you watch the kids? And I was like, oh, I don't like how that makes me feel. That's not cool. So having a process for following up and following through with what you say, tracking the conversations you're having, who you're having them with, what you're talking about, why you want to continue to follow up with them, and having all of that. For me, I don't have it automated. It's on me because as a coach, I am a relationship based human being. And so I want to continue to have those conversations. There are automated processes that I use for other things. Yes, for like lead magnet follow up and follow through. And I do a virtual summit every year, so I have automated processes that go for that. But when it comes to the relationships in my world, those are managed by me because that's how I build and grow my business.
So the non-CRM, the
Right.
RM,
Yeah,
the
the
RM
personal relationship management tool.
just pings you on the corner and says, like, on your shoulder and says, like, hey, reach out to this person, or you haven't talked to your mom in a week, or
Yep. It
something.
pops up a notification on my phone and it says, "Hey, you said you wanted to follow up with your mom today." And so I can go in and quickly send her the quick text message of why I wanted to reach out to her. So for example, a couple weeks ago, I got the ping to reach out to my mom and it said, "Ask mom out to brunch." And so we went to brunch this past Sunday. Like it's seriously that silly, but it works because, I have
Yeah.
that by not doing those things, you have that mental load sitting there, the guilt, the awful things happening, because you're sitting there going, "Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this." And when you have something that's tracking all that for you and reminding, you can literally take it out of your head and that all of that, the negative emotions that go with "I should be, I should be, I should be," and you stick it in the app, and the app goes, "Hey, go do that thing. It'll take you 10 seconds." And you go, and you're done. It's great. And I absolutely adore. I love, 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 love my system.
I think that is great. I know there are people out there that are saying that sounds like a nightmare to set up. How do you do it? Blah, blah, blah. And I would tell you, if you're going with, you didn't name one, but if you're going with any of the reputable ones that are out there, they have
Right.
mountains of training on YouTube
Oh
that will
yeah.
walk you through how to set up whatever you are doing. And most of them come with a onboarding concierge that will help you. I
Yes.
agree.
And that's the one I have. I have one that has an onboarding concierge
Yeah.
who takes you through the process. And what's great is it's at no additional cost if you're doing like the premium level of this particular system. Like it's in the onboarding is included and it's a live person on a Zoom. They're not sending you a link to a video tutorial. Like
Yeah.
I freaking love it. So, I mean, if you want, I'll send you the link. You can put it in the show notes and people can go check it out. It's my personal favorite. But there's lots of them out there, and the best CRM, and every CRM will tell you this, the best CRM is the one you will use.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I have a couple different programs. One I use that I'll give away. Like, I think it's great. It's called To-Do List. It is
Cool.
a simple. So the reason that I love it, I'm holding up my phone. You can see this if you're watching. It's one button. I press it and it immediately gives me a plus sign where I can just add a note. And it
Nice.
just gets the crap out of my head. We've all been walking somewhere or like running around or you're on a call. So it syncs with my desktop, it syncs with my phone, and it syncs with. So what I end up with at the end of I usually every 3 days, I end up with a big list. We go in, this is how I was told to do it, and it's genius. Everything should either start with a person's name or a verb.
Yes. An
So the
action
person's
verb.
name is a note for one of my clients, Nate, Joe, Sue, and then it's whatever about them. My assistant then takes that and puts that into a file folder. And we just go through and I bang all those out, or most of them are things I need to tell them. So she'll write an email from them. So right now, like I'm looking over, I have a guy named Tom. Tom has 9 notes. So those 9 notes on Wednesday will all be put in an email and emailed to him. Makes it really easy. The other one, if it starts with a verb, it's usually for me. It's
Right.
call your mom or take out the trash, but it starts with a verb and I know what it needs to do.
Yep.
And it's the app is free. There is a paid version, but you don't need it. But it's just, I use that. It's really nice. I also have reminders set up in Google Calendar and all that stuff, but we won't go down that rabbit hole.
I know. There are so many tricks, tips, and hacks around all of that. Absolutely. I mean, I use my iPhone assistant all the time. I'm not going to say her name. Well, actually mine,
Yeah.
I changed to the male British voice because I'm like, if I'm going to have an assistant, I'm going to have, basically Jarvis or Niles from, it's always a British butler. I want one of those. So
there you go. You get to have whatever you want.
Exactly. It's great. So I talk to my iPhone a lot, asking it to remind me to do things. And I do location-based reminders when I get home, remind me to do this. If I'm close to Walgreens, remind me to buy that. It's fabulous. I love it.
It really, really is. If you're listening to this and you're like, I didn't know it could do that, go search YouTube for top ways to use iPhone or Android built-in assistant, because there are some amazing things. All right, we're going to move on to, this is the last one, and I love that you put this in. You started mentoring people within your first month in business. And the word teach or teacher has come up a lot in this. When you start to teach somebody what you have just learned, your brain will force you to implement it and you remember it in a much different way. If you ever want to learn something, the best way to learn it is to teach it. Build a webinar, build a slide deck, go teach it to your dog. It doesn't matter who you're teaching it to. It will help you. And I love that you called that out. So I was going to ask you, how was mentorship when you started this process? I know we're going back in time a little bit now, but how did that go for you?
In terms of, I started those first 3 months because I did not know how to recruit. So I did not have a team to mentor. So I was being mentored at the time. And just going through that with her, with Mary Grace, the gal I told you who was doing all my training. And so I just, like I said, I went to all the trainings. I reached out to her when I had questions. The interesting thing was, because even though she had 12 years of experience in the industry, but she had only been with the company that she brought me on to, the jewelry company, for like a month. So she didn't know all of the company-based stuff. So sometimes I was asking questions. She's like, honestly, I don't know the answer to that. And so I would call home office myself. And it got to the point where everyone at home office knew Jennie Bellinger out of St. Louis.
That's
awesome. I would call and ask that, right? Because I would call and ask the questions. And they loved that I was not just floundering out there. I would call and say, hey, I need the answer to this. I can't find it on the website. How do I do this? Or what, or where can I find it? So that way I can teach people where to find it. So I would do that. But then when I did start bringing on my first team members, because like I said, once I figured out how to recruit, I went from 0 to 5 in 6 weeks. Like, had nobody. And then I had 5 people on my team in the next 6 weeks. And so because I went from 0 to 100 so freaking fast, did I get all my mentoring right? No. I'm a human. Matter? Yeah, no, not really. I mean, in some cases, yeah, there were, because I was learning the process of being a direct sales leader, and mentoring myself. So yeah, it taught me, okay, don't do this. There were certain things I learned not to do as a direct sales leader. And there were certain things I learned that, that was really effective. I'm going to keep doing that. So the mentoring process is one that even still to this day, I'm revising and continuing to learn how to be a great mentor and learn how to be a great mentee. Somebody who, before our interview started, I mentioned that I was lucky enough to have Rob Goyette sitting at my kitchen table about 10 days ago, right? And for people who don't know who Rob Goyette is, he's a huge coach of coaches, and he happened to be in St. Louis, and he got invited to my house, and he showed up. And so he sat there and mentored me for like 30 minutes, no charge. Just we sat there and talked. And for me as a mentee receiving that mentorship, I turned around and implemented immediately what he taught me and the advice he gave me, because I'm like, I know he knows how to build coaching businesses. So if he says do X, Y, and Z, guess what Jennie's gonna do? X and then Y and Z. I'm gonna get it done.
Well, you just laid out like going and getting it done. I mean, there are a couple, man, there's so many great things in here. I want to go back to like mentorship and getting it done in the beginning and your willingness to test. You had talked a little bit ago about like, I don't mind doing something and getting the data because it tells me whether it was good or bad and I can pivot. I think so many people get stuck in this place where they have either imposter syndrome or they're worried about somebody's going to think about them. So they have these ideas. My art teacher used to tell me ideas are cheap. They're worthless. Because if you don't do anything with them, you'll never know whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. And then you'll see somebody who had your idea that ran with it and was successful. And that's where you're like, so how did your mindset, I'm going to touch on this in relationship to both testing things and mentorship. How did you get over the hump of, I might do something wrong, both in mentorship and in your business in general?
Luckily, being somebody who is neurodivergent, I'm used to doing things wrong from time to time. I don't attach myself to the outcome, and I certainly don't let it be a reflection of who I am, right? My mistakes don't define me if I turn around and learn from them. So that's part of it, it's having grown up in the military. We moved every 2 to 3 years, and so there was a lot of learning how to be a friend over and over and over again, like how to make friends, and you learn a lot about people, and just luckily I had a lot of support from my parents who did not allow those kinds of things to define who we are. Our mistakes are our mistakes. Go make it right. Everybody's going to make a mistake. What matters is how we clean up.
That is absolutely the right answer. I just wrote down, like, you're right. My mistakes do not define me. I've heard, I can't remember who it was. I've heard it a couple different ways in a couple different places, but like, just because you fail at something does not mean you're a failure. It means you failed at something because you took action and you're learning. You're only a failure if you absolutely stop, give up, and quit.
Amen.
And even then, right? Like, it's all about learning. Like, it's a growth mindset. Carol Dweck, if you've never read that book, it's a book called Mindset. Anyone listening, you've got it loud and clear.
Yeah. I need to go find that. But the other way I've heard that laid out there is I either win or I learn. And I can't remember who said it. It's an actual quote out there from somebody. I either win or I learn. And because that, especially once I saw that quote somewhere, and that I saw that sometime after I started my direct sales jewelry business, I went, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is. That's what I've been doing. And so it's a lot easier for me to go out there and go, okay, let's give this a shot. Let's see how this works. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And I would look at it and go, okay, what about that made it work? What about it made it not work? Or how can I make it better? Always learning and tweaking and getting better. So, but that also, again, like I said, it helps when you're neurodivergent because you're willing to go after the shiny object sometimes, but that can also be your kryptonite because you're going after too many shiny objects sometimes. So learning to focus and figuring out what to focus on is a key thing when you're an entrepreneur, and especially as a solopreneur. And I just recently saw a statistic that solopreneurs are 50% more likely to have ADHD than the general population. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That explains a lot.
So did they become an entrepreneur because they had ADD, or do they have ADD because they are an entrepreneur? Like, it's
they feed each other. It's that yin yang thing going. They feed each other. I'm telling you.
I agree. I 100% agree. So I want to go back to the leadership piece, and we'll kind of bring it full circle. Because I think leadership is leadership of yourself, leadership of those around you, leadership of your team is one of the most valuable skills that unfortunately I feel like is lacking more and more. Just talk to me a little bit about becoming a leader and like one or two lessons that you had to learn yourself, and then some of the results that you saw, not just in the world around you and in your people, but also in yourself as you mastered leadership.
Ooh, good question. I'd have to say, in terms of becoming a leader, it's the first step in all of that is deciding to be a leader, deciding to be a leader for yourself, deciding to be a leader for others. Um, as an entrepreneur, you're a leader whether you like it or not, just like you're a salesperson whether you like it or not. Because if you don't sell, your business goes nowhere and it dies. As an entrepreneur, if you don't lead your clients down the path, hello, lead. You have to lead them. You have to lead your clients and your potential clients down the path towards working with you. If you are not leading them, that's why you're losing people and you're not getting clients or customers, right? Because you're not leading. Once you decide, once you make the decision, I'm going to lead, it shifts everything. Just like you said, that mindset shift of treating everything like a business. Once I decided this is a business, this is not a hobby thing I'm going to do on the side. The decision to lead will shift how you think about everything. It will shift how you speak about yourself and your business and how you speak to your potential clients and to the clients that you have, leading them down that road. It will shift how you behave in your business and how you show up in the world, whether it's with people that you're interacting with belly to belly or on this wonderful square box online networking this way. It will shift everything you do to just decide to do it, because then you go, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. Great, go learn. I mean,
Great, go
you
learn.
want to, yeah, you want to learn how to be a leader. I mean, the name in leadership is John Maxwell. Go learn from him. He's one of my I still learn from him. I read the books, I listen to the audibles. I listen to him on podcasts when he does an interview. Yes, that.
Okay, so I'm a big book nerd. I read a lot.
Mhm.
I have never read John Maxwell. What should I go read? What should I start with? What's the
Oh
gateway
God.
drug?
Okay. My favorite is the five oh, what's it called? It's left my head now, of course, but the exact title, but it's basically the five levels of leadership. Five levels of leadership, because once people understand that there's different levels of leadership, and then not only that, but you are at a different level of leadership with every human you interact with. And if you can quickly identify which level of leadership you are currently sitting at with somebody based on their behavior and the way they talk to you and the way they talk about you, um, you can then begin to lead better and take the next step to move yourself up to the next level of leadership with that person if you want to. That shifted that book, and that idea of the five levels of leadership shifted everything in my business, because I'm wanting to say it was maybe 6 or 9 months after I took that first training about it that my team ended up hitting number one in the world,
That's awesome.
because I learned it with my team and was able to teach it to the leaders on my team, and then they understood those things as well. And I think that that's quite
That's huge.
possibly was the tipping point to get us to number one in the world.
That's awesome. All right, so man, I keep thinking like I want to wrap this up, but I keep having more questions. More questions, more questions, more questions. So
Yeah.
we've talked about leadership, we talked about systems and processes, we've talked about how you help talk to yourself making a decision. I have seen people in the MLM space who have made a decision. They're like, I'm doing this, I'm going forward. And they think, 6 months in, 8 months in, a year in, and they're not having the results, right? Sometimes it's
Mhm.
sales, sometimes they would all say it's the product. You've coached hundreds, if not thousands of people. You've
Mhm.
seen inside tons of organizations. What's the real reason that people are struggling to find success? If they've made a decision and they move forward, what's the thing that's really holding them back, in your opinion?
The stories they're telling themselves.
What kind of
The story,
stories? Tell me.
yeah, the stories that, it, let's see. I would say it's the story of, yes, there's that one person who's doing the 5 figures a month, but that's never going to be me, right? Whether they're saying that out loud, but if it's happening in their head, that's going to change how they speak about their business, the product, the opportunity that they have for people to join and start their own business. It's going to affect all of those things. So, it's the story they tell themselves about their fear. I don't want to be seen as that salesy person. I don't want to be seen as that recruiter. I don't want to be seen at like it's the fear of appearing a different way. So even if they've decided I'm going to do this, they still have that story in the back of their head, or they may even be saying it out loud from time to time and not even recognizing it. And the things that we think and the things that we say are so freaking powerful that's why things are called, that's why magic talks about spelling and like spelling words. Words are that powerful, people. It's called spelling for a reason. Those two things are correlated for a freaking reason. So shifting out of that mindset and learning how to speak, think in ways that are actually more effective, even when you've decided something, will actually help change those results that they're getting.
Okay, so this is going to seem, I agree with you 150%. Like more than anything, I agree like with what you were saying. The stories that we tell ourselves, the loops that we run in our head, the way we talk to ourselves, right? More than 30,000 comments a day each person has in their head, and we become what we think about. There's no other way around it. And what people would, the big, when I tell somebody that, the feedback that I get is, well, I can't just change that. I need to be that person. Then I'll talk to myself different. How do we change the story in our head? Neuroscience teacher turned sales dominatrix. Answer me this, please. Riddle me this.
Yeah. How do we change it? There's a few different ways to do it. The easiest, most powerful thing that somebody can do is start working with a coach, whether it's me or somebody else who knows how to shift that out. And so what you're going to be looking for in terms of knowing how working with somebody who knows how to shift that is somebody who's been trained in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, because they can literally work with their clients to shift the way that they think, the way that they speak, and the way that they behave so that they show up moving towards their goals rather than holding themselves back by telling themselves that story. So, finding somebody who can help them and hold them accountable to the new thought processes, and going through that. So I highly recommend finding somebody who has been trained in. They don't have to be a master practitioner, but they certainly should be trained in NLP. Um, if that's somebody's goal, if they recognize that what's holding them back is themselves and what they're telling themselves, that negative story loop, they need somebody who's trained in NLP to help make that shift.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I love that. I think that is great. Because I mean, I don't believe in affirmations really. I mean, I think that it's helpful, but not, it's hard, right? Because if you tell yourself, I do this, I do this, I do this, and your brain says, but you don't, but you don't, but you don't, like
Right.
you have inner dissonance. I believe in the NLP route. I think that is great.
Just
Um,
affirmations by themselves, yes. And if you aren't working with a coach who knows how to write an affirmation for you, that's the difference. Because I had a coach write my affirmation for me, and
mhm.
and I've been using it since August of last year, and it has massively shifted my business because it's one affirmation. I don't have to do like all of them. You know, the Stuart Smalley, I am this, I am this, I'm this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's just one.
No. You
You
you need to have one coach write you the one affirmation that you need to shift. And I'm happy to share my affirmation. I'll put it out there for the world if you want me to share it. You want to hear
I
it?
I got two sides to it. I know the whole audience wants to hear it, but I don't want them to I don't want them to be like, "Well, I'm just going to use hers," because I agree with you. I think that everybody should have their own. But
Yeah.
in the we'll put a big asterisk by it and say, "Don't just use this. Go build
No.
your own. Go find
Yeah.
somebody to help you build it." But I agree with you, just one. So what is it?
What is it? Mine is I am an accomplished, captivating, influential woman, humbly accepting massive success in my life and business now. And that's my daily, every single day contract with myself. It's not just an affirmation, it's a contract. And what is really interesting, because when I first was given that contract, I did not believe that about myself. None of it. None
Interesting.
of it. Did like that was the story I was telling myself, despite the fact that I have like a massively popular podcast in my industry, despite all these, my coaching business, it wasn't growing the way it should be. And now I started saying that, and the behaviors that started showing up because I was saying that to myself in the mirror, looking myself in the eye as I said it every single day. Um, what started happening was I signed 8 clients in 10 weeks. When
Wow.
in the previous 12 weeks, one. And the
Awesome.
only thing that changed was my contract. So I started showing up differently as a more accomplished, captivating, influential woman.
I love it.
Yeah. So guys, you can't have that one because it's about women. But yeah, honestly, finding a coach who can help you find the one the contract, the affirmation that is perfect for you is key in shifting that.
I love it. All right. We have covered a wide range of topics. I know before we jumped on, you had said, what I want to offer people who stay through and who want to learn more, I'd love to offer them a free coaching session, not a sales call. She's not going to try to sell you anything. Where do they go if they just want a little bit of help with what they're doing? Maybe they want some help working on their affirmation. Maybe they want help with sales. Maybe they want to have a conversation about MLMs, downlines, building their leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I open up a few spots in my calendar every single week. So some weeks are already booked. Some weeks have some openings here and there for these sessions. And in gratitude for your listener staying through this whole time, they can go to Talk with Jennie B, and that's JENNIE, talkwithjennieb.com, and that will take them directly to where they can pick a spot in an open slot and reserve that just for them. And I will spend 30 minutes on them, their goals, and what they want to focus on for just that 30-minute time slot.
Awesome. I love it. So you guys, that is going to be in the show notes. It's also, if you're watching this on YouTube, it is in the description. Go book on her calendar. I will tell you, she's super fun. I loved meeting you on the cruise. I love hanging out with you. We had a great time. I thought this podcast was amazing. You shared so much. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, and I hope this was fun for you. I think it was.
Oh yeah, I love this. I love anytime I can provide value for somebody. So as long as one listener walked away with one nugget of this is what's going to make me and my business better, I've done my job. This time was 100% worth it.
Awesome. Jennie, thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. You're awesome.
You're welcome. To everybody else out there, until next time, take action, change lives, and make money. We'll see you soon. Are you looking to scale your business but trying to figure out how to get your message across? Well, go to storyselling.how to grab my free course that will show you how to discover everything that you need to build your business through stories. These stories work whether it's in social media, email, or public speaking. There are 5 core stories that you'll learn. You'll be able to use all of them by the time you're done with this course. Again, that is storyselling.how. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to tune in next time.